Well, 2020 certainly wasn't the year any of us planned, especially when it comes to movies and things like that. I don't think any of us quite anticipated the year we were going to have, or lack thereof, when it come to cinematic releases and new films and stuff like that. But now we have reached the end of 2020. It's that time of year where all of us film fans and all of us film YouTubers, we all put together a list of our top 10 favourite films of that year. And, 2020 is an interesting one because my list is pretty interesting. It's definitely not the list I expected to have by the end of this year, given the fact that there really wasn't much movement throughout it. My list has been pretty consistent throughout the entire year, and that's mainly because it's pretty front-loaded. A lot of these films came out quite early on in the year. There are a couple of late entries, but for the most part, it's a pretty front-loaded list. And I think a lot of people probably have the same. And given the fact that I didn't watch that many movies this year because of the lack of releases, my list and the overall number of films I've watched this year are certainly down from usual. But anyway, with all that said and all that addressed, let's dive into my list of my top 10 films of 2020.
I'm only going over.
Kicking off my list at number 10 is 1917, directed by Sam Mendes. Now, this was a film I was very excited about going into it. I thought the trailer was great, it looked action-packed, it looked very emotional, and, a one-shot war movie was definitely an exciting and enticing concept that I was very excited to buy into. And, looking back on 1917, it was one of the earliest films I saw this year. It might have been the first film I saw this year. I really enjoyed it. I thought this film was a blast, I enjoy war movies for the most part, and I think that this film was really a contender as one of my favourites. I thought this was really great. Seeing George Mackay, who I'd never really seen before, I thought he was great in this film. Absolutely tremendous. I really enjoyed his performance overall. And, the action, what they were able to do with that, because this is a one-shot war movie, so they had to kind of, keep up with the choreography, keep up with the lines. It was just all incredibly impressive when you consider the fact that this was a one-shot war movie. Of course, it's not completely one-shot. There are hidden cuts and stuff like that, and there is also a fade to black in the middle, which technically eliminates the one-shot thing. But, still overall, it's an incredibly impressive technical feat, what they were able to do with this film and how they were able to make it. And by the time you reach the end of it, that final shot, you look back on the movie, you reflect on the film, you really feel like you have been on a journey with these characters because you feel like you were there with them the entire way through because of the one-shot technique. And I think Sam Mendes, the director of Skyfall, Spectre, both of which are Bond films that I really enjoy. I mean, Skyfall a bit more than Spectre, but I think he particularly deserves to be commended for his work on this film because he really did a good job. And of course, Roger Deakins delivering the cinematography as he always does. Roger Deakins, his work in this movie is spectacular, as it always is. He did win the Oscar for Best Cinematography. While I don't think he necessarily deserved it this year, given the fact he was up against The Lighthouse, I really, really still loved his cinematography, and it's still absolutely beautiful. It's still artistic as anything, and still any shot of this movie you could frame on a wall, and that's because of the Deeks. But overall, a fantastic film in 1917. Like I say, it's not perfect. There are flaws in it. That fade to black in the middle certainly isn't the best, and also the constant popping up of famous actors here and there can be distracting, given the fact that most of the main cast are kind of unknowns, or at least much smaller actors than what the likes of Benedict Cumberbatch and Mark Strong and stuff like that who do show up in the film. I still think it's an incredibly exciting film and also very, very impressive technically. Coming in at number 9 is Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho, and this is of course our Best Picture winner for this year, and it absolutely deserves it. Parasite is a tremendous film, and I went into it not really knowing what to expect. I've not seen that many foreign films. I've seen a small handful here and there, but it's not really something I've massively tapped into. But I had to see Parasite. It was actually released at my local cinema, which never happens. So I was like, okay, I'll definitely go check this out, and there was a lot of Oscar buzz surrounding it. And, I came out of it thinking, wow, that was a fantastic film. Really well made, spectacularly acted, a great story. And what really surprised me about it was how emotionally invested I got into the film, because the film is very intense and also very, very funny as well. The film can also get kind of scary at points because of how intense it is. It feels like the movie is kind of, because it's all about kind of the charade in a sense, and the feeling that the charade could kind of crumble around these characters at any point was very, very scary. But also the way this film kind of shows the cultural divide between the rich and the poor is also very, very interesting, because you kind of see the different levels of it. You have the poor and the downtrodden who are also while they are victims of the world around them, they are also very, very set on pretty much doing anything they can to rise out of that situation. And then you have the rich people in the world who, while they are very much, they do downtrod on the poor, they almost in a way don't necessarily do it out of jest or do it on purpose. They're just kind of oblivious to the world because of how they are. And I thought that showing that level of it was very, very interesting and very different to the way most movies and most shows would portray this issue. I thought that was very, very interesting. And the film overall has a great script. It's very entertaining, it's very witty, and it's also, the cinematography is fantastic. The direction from Bong Joon-ho, absolutely top-notch. I feel like Parasite, absolutely deserved Best Picture. This is a tremendous film, and one that will be remembered for a very long time. This is the first foreign film to ever win Best Picture, and, out of all the Best Picture nominees this year, this was by far the one that deserved it. I thought this film was fantastic, and, I'm very excited to watch it again very, very soon.
European 162, what's the status?
Coming in at number 8 is maybe the most surprising film of the year for me, 7500. This film came out of nowhere and dropped on Amazon Prime this year, and I absolutely fell in love with it. This film just completely swept me off my feet, and, I feel like this movie was one that I watched at just the right time. I watched it super late at night. It was, during lockdown, so it didn't really matter what time I went to bed, so I watched it very late at night. And it was just perfect for that. This movie is a very suspenseful, very quiet thriller, even though it's about a plane hijacking. Most films of this subgenre of a plane hijacking are, more action-orientated films. But what I really liked about 7500 was it went in a completely different direction and really focused on the drama side of it. It's all about Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character of Tobias Ellis. He's the pilot of this plane, or the co-pilot of this plane. And it's in the middle of the hijacking, and he's stuck in the cabin, not really being able to do anything, but just try his best to keep himself, his passengers, and the plane going. This film's very, it's got a lot of stakes to it. His wife is one of the cabin crew. He's also just the pilot now of this plane. And, there's a lot riding on his decisions. And I think that this film does a really good job of displaying that. It's also very short. This film is less than an hour and a half, so it breezes by. And, I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt, this is the first film he'd made in a few years. He came out of retirement to do this film. Not retirement per se, but, he kind of took a bit of a hiatus from acting, and he kind of came back to do this film. And, he's tremendous in it. He's really great. He really delivers an emotional performance that I really bought into. I loved his character. And I thought that this film was really special, really unique, and again, perfect for a late night watch. Coming in at number 7 is Birds of Prey, and this was a film that I certainly didn't expect to kind of bang in the way that it did. I wasn't exactly super hyped about the movie in a way, because the trailers didn't do it for me. I wasn't super excited about this idea of a Harley Quinn spin-off film, although I really like Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I liked her in Suicide Squad. I didn't really feel like a movie surrounding her was really the strongest idea. But what surprised me about this film was how much I enjoyed it. It was really fun and just kind of non-stop fun from beginning to end. The cast of this film is fantastic. Not only is Margot Robbie just continuing to shine as Harley Quinn, but her supporting cast in the film is really strong. Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Huntress was genuinely hilarious, and also I absolutely loved Jurnee Smollett-Bell as Black Canary. I love Black Canary, and seeing her in this film, in live action on the big screen was really exciting, especially that canary cry, and also her singing was absolutely incredible. I thought Jurnee Smollett-Bell was great, and Rosie Perez was also fantastic as Renee Montoya, a really great addition there too. I think this has a really strong ensemble cast. They work well together. You can tell there was such a passion behind this film, and I think Cathy Yan, as the director, did an incredible job of bringing her vision to life. This film had such a personality to it that I've not really seen in a comic book movie for quite some time, particularly in the superhero realm. There's movies like Scott Pilgrim and stuff which definitely have that personality to it, and Kick-Ass as well. But in terms of actual superhero movies based on Marvel and DC, I hadn't seen a film with this level of personality and style to it in quite some time, and I think Birds of Prey has that in spades. And I haven't even spoken about probably the best part of this movie, which was Ewan McGregor as Black Mask. Absolutely incredible performance, so funny, just absolutely chewing scenery through and through. I loved his performance, and a truly entertaining villain who goes out in a fantastic way. And the action sequences are phenomenal, the soundtrack's fantastic, and I think this film just has so much fun, and you can tell there's so much fun on set making the film. It just shines through on screen. And from one DCEU film to another, coming in at number 6, Wonder Woman 1984. Now, this is actually a film, obviously, I didn't review. I didn't have the chance to review this film. It came out very, very late in the year, but I really enjoyed this film, and Birds of Prey got a lot of hate as well at the beginning of this year, and so was Wonder Woman. And to be honest, I mean, obviously you can like the film, you can dislike the film. It's obviously all up to your own opinion. But the hate for this film, I don't really quite understand. I feel like Wonder Woman 1984, while it's definitely not as strong as the first film, I feel like 1984 really harkened back to those classic style superhero movies. This really felt like a classic old style superhero movie that we don't really get anymore. And whether that's for better or worse is really up to you, but I really enjoyed it because it felt fresh, even though it's technically not. It felt new because of the new style of superhero movies we have now. It felt like it was from an older time, and that I really appreciated, and it kind of worked given the fact this movie does take place in 1984. What I really liked in this film particularly were all the performances. I really like Gal Gadot. I think she once again shines as Wonder Woman. She was great in the first movie, and she doesn't get much to shine in Justice League, but she's really great in this film. Genuinely amazing, and probably Gal Gadot's best performance we've seen to date. I thought she was really great in this film. And also Pedro Pascal as Maxwell Lord absolutely stole the movie. He's fantastic. Kristen Wiig as Cheetah, also really great in the film. And Chris Pine as Steve Trevor. I was kind of worried about Steve as a character. I thought, where are they going to go with him in this movie? Bringing him back in some way, shape, or form. What are they going to do with it? And he was really great in the film. Like, genuinely kind of adorable and endearing in the same way that Gal was in the first movie. They kind of do the reverse of the fish out of water thing, where in the first movie Gal was the fish out of water. In this movie it's Steve Trevor, and I think that works fantastically. While I do feel like the movie is a bit busy, and I don't really like particularly how the film ends per se, because I feel like the ending of the film there's way too much going on, and also I think this movie does kind of suffer from the issue that older superhero movies do suffer from, which I feel like there's perhaps too many villains. I don't really feel like, even though there's only two, I don't really feel like Maxwell Lord and Cheetah, I think they were both too big for this movie. Like, I think both of those characters needed their own film. And I have a feeling for Wonder Woman 3, they're going to bring back Cheetah and maybe make her the main antagonist of that film, because Maxwell Lord is the main antagonist of this film. I do feel like there's more room to explore the Cheetah character, but I do feel like this movie is a bit busy towards the end, particularly with Maxwell Lord granting all these wishes around the world and stuff like that. There was way too much going on. But overall, this film, I just had a blast with it. I watched it in cinemas. It's the first film I've watched in the cinema in a long time. And, I watched it in IMAX. It was incredible. And, unfortunately, not everyone's going to be able to have that experience, because this movie did launch on HBO Max as well. So people around, and especially in the US, will be watching it in HBO Max. But I just thought this film was a blast. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun and a great sequel to Wonder Woman. Again, I don't think it's as good as the first, but to be honest, it's not that far behind for me. Coming in at number 5 is The Gentleman, directed by Guy Ritchie, and I absolutely love this film. This was a big surprise for me as well, because to be honest, the trailers didn't do it for me. Guy Ritchie's pretty hit or miss for me as the director, even though I've not seen a lot of his older stuff. His more recent films are very, very hit or miss for me. Like, I like The Man from U.N.C.L.E., but I don't like King Arthur. I really like Aladdin. So I didn't really know what to expect from this film. And again, the trailers didn't particularly excite me, but oh my god, this film was hilarious. Like, just from beginning to end, I was just having a blast throughout this movie. And to be honest, I have no critiques for it. I think this movie was just absolutely hilarious and funny and entertaining all the way through. I love all the characters in it. I think they're all very entertaining in their different ways. Particularly, Hugh Grant is just unstoppable in this film. Matthew McConaughey is really, really great in it. Henry Golding's a lot of fun. Charlie Hunnam's also really good. Colin Farrell's fantastic. They're just all a great ensemble together. And Michelle Dockery delivers probably my favourite line of the year in this film. And I think that overall, The Gentleman was just an absolute blast. Again, it was a surprise. I didn't expect to like this movie, but as soon as I came out of it, I was like, I just want to watch that again. Like, it was so much fun. I just want to go back and watch that movie again. And I'm surprised I haven't yet, since I now own it on Blu-ray. I'm surprised I haven't actually gone back to it, but what a great film this was. And again, a complete surprise for me. And as someone who's not necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily describe myself as a Guy Ritchie fan, this movie definitely made me want to go back and look at his other films, in this sort of style and this sort of genre, because if they're as good as this, I think a Guy Ritchie fan is maybe something I could call myself in a few years' time. Coming in at number 4 is The Trial of the Chicago 7. And this film I just absolutely fell in love with. I was pretty excited to see this movie anyway, just because I thought it looked really good. I thought Aaron Sorkin, this is his second directorial outing, and I liked Molly's Game. I thought that film was really good. I was excited to see what he's going to do with this, especially because I know he's been trying to get this project off the ground for some years now. It's kind of been in development hell for a while. And overall, this film completely just encaptured me. I absolutely loved it. I think that The Trial of the Chicago 7, You know, it tells a very timely and relevant story, particularly today. It's kind of amazing how timely this movie is, given the fact they couldn't have planned this, for the movie to come out, at this point in time and this year. It's kind of incredible that they were able to do that. But the cast is just phenomenal throughout the film. You know, Sacha Baron Cohen, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Eddie Redmayne, just the entire cast, Jeremy Strong, they're all really great in the film throughout. Mark Rylance also deserves a shout as well. Really great performance from him. But the dialogue was really intriguing, really interesting. And what I really liked about the film, and this could be seen as a negative for some people, but for someone like me, I see it as a complete positive. I feel like all the courtroom stuff, was really easy to follow along with. It was never too technical. I think it just allowed anyone to watch the film and completely follow along with the story. And again, some people may see that as a complaint that the film doesn't go deep enough. But for me personally, if I'm able to just follow along with the courtroom drama and completely understand everything that's going on and just get completely invested in the story and invested in the drama, I see that as an absolute win, in the words of the Hulk. I see that as an absolute win. I really enjoyed that aspect of the film, and I think Sorkin does a really good job of writing that. And I think, again, the film's just so timely, it's so relevant, and so entertaining. Every scene in this movie was just super entertaining, and that shocked me. I thought this film would have some slow moments, but it really doesn't. It kind of just continues to bang from scene to scene, and that surprised me. So The Trial of Chicago 7 overall, I loved watching this in the cinema. It was a great experience, and again, a film that I didn't really expect to be in the top 10, but it's at number 4, so it must be doing something right. And coming in at number 3, bringing us into the top 3, is Greed. And this is certainly the deck pick of the year. I don't think this is going to be on anyone else's top 10 this year, because I've not really seen anyone else who actually likes this movie all too much. I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist, but I've certainly not seen them anywhere. This movie was just completely tailored to my taste. I love British comedy, and this film is by far the most funny movie of the year, hands down. I thought this film was just unstoppably hilarious. From beginning to end, this movie really made me laugh, Stitches level laugh. I thought it was so funny. And, a lot of that comes from the fact that the reason I was excited for this movie is because David Mitchell was in it, who's from Peep Show. Peep Show is my favourite British comedy. It's my favourite comedy show. Probably my second favourite show of all time. So that was already a big win for this movie. But not even just him. Steve Coogan in this movie, while he's insufferable and horrible, you can't take your eyes off him because he's so incomprehensible as a human. You can't help but watch him. And, this full film is kind of a train wreck waiting to happen. And as you watch that unfold, it's kind of insane. While I do feel like the film is a bit messy in regards to how it handles its messaging, particularly on certain subjects, I feel like the film can be a bit heavy-handed, particularly towards the end. I feel like they could have honestly done without it. I still really enjoy it through and through. I've seen it twice now, and I just find it so funny and so entertaining. And it's got, if you're a fan of British comedy, you'll really appreciate all the cameos in the film, all the actors they bring in. If you're a fan of British panel shows like Would I Lie to You and stuff like that, you'll see so many famous people from that within this movie, just in cameo scenes. It's just a real treat for British comedy fans, and I really enjoyed this through and through. And again, I feel like this is a pick that isn't really going to be on anyone else's list, but I mean, this really tells you my sort of personality and my taste in film, because this is at number 3 on my list of 2020. My runner-up for this year, though, is Sonic the Hedgehog. And talk about a surprise. Talk about a shock. I mean, when they said they were making a Sonic movie, I was like, okay, cool, but let's see how it goes. And then the trailer came out, and it was awful, and we were like, oh, God. But the movie itself, now we've actually seen it, oh, this is a delightful film. I was so in love with this. And, I was a Sonic fan growing up. I love Sonic. I still love Sonic now. I really enjoy that character and this world. And seeing a sort of live-action movie of Sonic was definitely something I thought was sketchy, but I really wanted to see how they were actually going to do it. And while this isn't exactly the Sonic movie I would have done, I still love it for what it is. I think pairing him with James Marsden was really smart. He's really good in this movie of just talking to Sonic, even though he's not actually talking to anybody in real life. I thought that was really great. Ben Schwartz as the character, kind of perfect casting. It's not someone I'd really have thought of. It's not like Ben Schwartz is someone who's on my radar, but he was perfect in this. And of course, Jim Carrey as Robotnik was just pitch perfect. I mean, even though this is never, Robotnik's crazy, but we've never really seen this before from the character Robotnik. Jim Carrey, his commitment to it, he just sells it. He completely allows you to buy into it and just, go with this crazy, wacky villain performance just because of how committed he is to it, even though it's not necessarily Robotnik. he just makes it work. And, you know, there's so much fan service in this movie for Sonic fans, you know, there's so much going for it. And if you are a Sonic fan, I think you'll really appreciate it. And, you know, this movie isn't amazing, it's not the best thing in the world, but, you know, I think for a kids movie, it does a really good job of not only entertaining kids, but entertaining adults too, and also Sonic fans, I think, will like this. And, you know, the post-credit scene for this film, what it sets up for the sequel, you know, we know we're getting Tails and Knuckles in the sequel, and Eggman is really becoming, you know, the iconic look and stuff like that, we're getting that. I think it's great, and the action's great. I love the way they did the speed. You know, I think Sonic looks great, CGI-wise. Obviously, they did change up the original design, and this new design is much, much better. I just thought this film was so entertaining, so heartfelt, and, you know, harmless in a way. You know, I think, like, Detective Pikachu, which came out last year, was a film that a lot of Pokemon fans really liked, and people said that was a really good video game movie. I didn't like that movie because I have no connection to Pokemon, so it did nothing for me. But this feels like my Detective Pikachu in a way. Like, this film came out, I'm a huge Sonic fan, and I absolutely loved it. But my number one is absolutely Bad Boys for Life. Now, this was also a surprise for me, because I watched the first two Bad Boys movies before this came out, and I didn't really like them all too much. I was fine on them, but I didn't particularly love them or anything. But Bad Boys for Life, like, wow. What a fun ride this was. I mean, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are just on top form in this movie. They were by far my favourite thing about the Bad Boys movies. You know, their chemistry and their banter was by far my favourite part of it. And seeing them in this movie together, you know, kind of coming back all these years later, they still have that chemistry, they still have that level of energy, and it's just unbeatable in this film. They are so on fire, and it's just endlessly funny to watch those two go back and forth. And the action is probably the best in the series. It's really great. This film honestly gave me vibes of Fast and Furious, which you guys know I love the Fast and Furious movies, and that's probably why I love this movie as much as I do. It feels like a Fast and Furious movie, you know, completely. And I loved all the elements of this film, you know, I loved the ammo team they introduced, this kind of like side team of operatives who are really great, you know, Alexander Ludwig and Vanessa Hudgens. I thought they did a really good job of introducing those characters and making them likable and making them fun and making them a part of this universe. And, you know, I'd love to see, you know, we are getting a Bad Boys 4. I can't wait for that film, and I would love to see what they're going to do with these characters going forward in that film. The villain was also great in this movie. I loved the villain. I thought he was so fun, you know, and there's a really cool twist with his character too. I'm not going to say what it is for spoilers, but a really cool twist with his character that I did not expect and did not see coming. But even before that twist, which really added so much to him, he was already just a badass character. Really fun. And, you know, overall, that's the word that I describe Bad Boys for Life. It's fun. It's just an absolute escapism, you know, great time at the movies. And that's really what you're looking for in 2020, you know. I mean, even though we saw this film sort of before the pandemic hit, it's still one of those films I look back on and go, wow, what a fun experience that was. And a bit like what I said with The Gentleman, as soon as I came out of Bad Boys, I was like, I want to watch that again, because that was such a blast. And it's remained my number one from the day I saw it all the way to now. It's remained my favourite movie of the year. And, you know, I can't wait to watch it again. I've only seen it once, but I can't wait to watch it again because it was just hilarious. And again, really fun and so entertaining. The action is fantastic. You know, I am an action movie fan. You know, I love Fast and Furious, and that's what this movie reminded me of. And, you know, I've seen a lot of people say that this is kind of like the Fast Five of the Bad Boys franchise. You know, kind of like how Fast Five came out and really reinvigorated the Fast and Furious franchise and brought it into the modern day action film. I feel like that's what this movie does. You know, Bad Boys for Life brings the Bad Boys movies into sort of the modern day and brings them into the modern day style of action filmmaking and sets it up for a whole new set of films that we could get. Like I said, we are getting Bad Boys 4. We'll see where it goes from there, but I just love Bad Boys for Life. I thought this film was so phenomenal, so exciting, and by far the most fun movie of the year, and one that has just stuck with me from beginning to end. So there you have it, guys. There's my top 10 of 2020. Again, this is just my own personal list, of course. I'm not saying these are the best films, you know, they most certainly are not. But they're just the ones that I love the most. These are the films that I enjoyed the most and the ones that I have been meaning to go back to or have gone back to the most this year, just because I saw them and they were the ones that stuck with me the most. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Again, as I said in my previous video about, you know, me doing these new essay style, you know, commentary style videos. If you guys did enjoy this style, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And also let me know in the comments of anything else you'd like to add. And make sure you let me know your own top 10 in the comments down below as well. Let's have a nice chat about that down below. And as always, if you want to see more content like this, whether it's movies, TV, or games, whatever it may be, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And I hope to see you guys again next time.